Thank you, Acting Deputy President. And I do move that, in the opinion of the Senate, the following is a matter of urgency, and that is the need to protect the family home from Labor's spare bedroom tax. Now, the spare bedroom tax came from Labor's productivity roundtable last week, and I use the words productivity and roundtable in the broadest sense possible. In fact, there was a table there, it was slightly round, and there was productivity there, but it was defined by the lack of productivity rather than anything positively adding to Australia's economy. Because never in the history of humanity have so few people uttered so many words to achieve so little apart from proposing so many new taxes or higher taxes. So what we saw last week was a 3-day talkfest that achieved very, very little for the Australian people. But what it did show, Acting Deputy President, was within the beating heart of this Labor government is a desire to increase taxes and to bring in new taxes. And we know this because out of that productivity roundtable, in inverted commas, a lot of proposals for new and higher taxes were put forward. And in questions to whether it's the Treasurer or to ministers in the Senate today, the word that was the loneliest word, the word that was not uttered by the ministers or indeed by the Treasurer, was the word no. So when questions were put to the ministers, whether it was to Senator Wong or the other ministers sitting along the front bench, asking them to rule out new taxes or higher taxes, the word no did not enter. It did not come on stage left or stage right. You will not find the word no, those letters N and O, in Hansard at all during question time, because the Labor ministers refused to, failed to rule out the introduction of newer and higher taxes. And the one that Australians should be particularly concerned about is the tax on your spare bedroom. So an idea that came out of the productivity roundtable, in inverted commas, from last week is for there to be a tax on your spare bedroom. This is an outrageous attack on Australian families, and it is an outrageous attack on the family home, because few things are so sacrosanct to Australians as their desire and their right and their willingness to have some bricks and mortar or some timber and iron to call something their own home, whether it's in an apartment block or on a bit of dirt on the outskirts of Warwick where my place is. But what Labor want to do, because they're refusing to rule it out, which is really quite suspicious when you think about it, is they're not ruling out a tax on the spare bedrooms in your family home. So think about this. You might have a 2 or 3 bedroom home. You might have raised your family there. The kids have left, and you've got a couple of spare bedrooms there for when the grandkids come or the cousins who've been met for a few years come along. But no, Labor want you to be taxed for those spare bedrooms. So just imagine this. You wake up at night, and there's a bit of a nightmare going on, because not only have you got a lot of red tape in your bedroom, thanks to what Labor have done to productivity in this country, you've got Jim Chalmers in your bedroom because he wants to tax all the spare bedrooms in your house. This should scare the living daylights out of Australian people. This is what we call in the business a milk curdler. It is a milk curdler of an idea. And the fact that the Labor government will not rule it out should say to every Australian, and I challenge the speakers coming up after me, say in very clear words, enunciate your words, shout your words, enunciate the words, and rule out a tax on the spare bedrooms of Australians. Rule that out. It did not happen in question time today. And the danger is, where will this go? Where will this tax end up? in terms of the war on Australian families who are dealing with a cost of living crisis and are dealing with a government who, quite frankly, have given up on caring about them because the election was a few months ago. They've got the votes off them, and now they're going to tax Australians. They're going to raise taxes, increase taxes.
Thank you, Senator.
Rule it out.